again, everyone. I'm Storm Team 9 Chief Meteorologist Jerry Jackson, and this is Weather or Not. It's been a very hot summer so far, but a rather hit or miss summer when it comes to rain. The amount you've seen depends on where you live, which is one of many reasons why weather forecasting is such a tricky business here in eastern North Carolina.
Hail is a form of precipitation consisting of solid ice that forms inside thunderstorm updrafts. Hail can damage aircrafts, homes, and cars, and can be deadly to livestock and people. Hailstones are formed when raindrops are carried upward by thunderstorm updrafts into extremely cold areas of the atmosphere and freeze. Hailstones then grow by colliding with liquid water drops that freeze onto the hailstone surface. If the water freezes instantaneously when colliding with the hailstone, cloudy ice will form as air bubbles will be trapped in newly formed ice. However, if the water freezes slowly, the air bubbles can escape and the new ice will be clear. Hail falls when the thunderstorm's updraft can no longer support the weight of the hailstone, which can occur if the stone becomes large enough or the updraft weakens. Hailstones can have layers of clear and cloudy ice if the hailstone encounters different temperature and liquid water content conditions in the thunderstorms. The conditions experienced by the hailstone can change as it passes horizontally across or near an updraft. The layers, however, do not occur simply due to the hailstone going through up and down cycles inside a thunderstorm. The wind inside a thunderstorm isn't simply up and down. Horizontal winds exist from either a rotating updraft like a supercell thunderstorm or from the surrounding environment's horizontal winds. Hailstones also do not grow from being lofted to the top of the thunderstorm. At very high altitudes, the air is cold enough that all liquid water will have frozen into ice, and hailstones need liquid water to grow to an appreciable size. Hail falls when it becomes heavy enough to overcome the strength of the thunderstorm updraft and is pulled towards the earth by gravity. Smaller hailstones can be blown away by the updraft by horizontal winds, so larger hail typically falls closer to the updraft than smaller hail. If winds near the surface are strong enough, hail can fall at an angle or even nearly sideways. Wind-driven hail can tear up siding on houses, break windows or blow into houses, and break side windows on cars and cause severe injury or death to people and animals. The largest hailstone recovered in the U.S. fell in Vivian, South Dakota on June 23, 2010, with a diameter of 8 inches and a circumference of 18.62 inches. It weighed 1 pound, 15 ounces.
Earth is not the only planet with weather. Other planets have their own distinct look and feel, some hot and some cold.
Throughout the month, you may notice that the moon looks different. In fact, some nights you may not even see the moon. That's because of the moon's different phases. In this segment, let's talk about what causes moon phases and take a look at all 8 of them. First of all, we need to understand that the moon doesn't emit its own light, but instead reflects sunlight. Just as the sun continuously lights up half the earth, it also lights up half of the moon. However, since the moon orbits around the earth, we can only see part of the illuminated half. It takes about 28 days for the moon to orbit the earth, so at different times of the month, we can see a different part of this illuminated half. This is what we know as moon phases. The first moon phase we will talk about is the new moon. This is when the illuminated half of the moon is facing away from the earth, therefore it is not visible. The next phase is the waxing crescent. This occurs when the illuminated half is just barely coming into view. This means we only see a tiny curved sliver from our perspective here on Earth. The visible portion of the moon increases each day as the moon's orbit brings more and more of the illuminated half into view. That leads us to the moon phase known as the first quarter. At this point, the moon has completed 1/4 of its orbit around the Earth. Many people call this a half moon, and while it does appear that way, remember we're only seeing a portion of the illuminated side. So in reality, I guess you could say we are seeing half of the illuminated half. Next is the waxing gibbous. At this point, the majority of the illuminated side is visible from Earth. As the journey continues, the waxing gibbous eventually transitions into a full moon. Now we can finally see the illuminated half in its entirety. Full moons occur when the moon is on the opposite side of the Earth from the sun. After reaching peak illumination, the moon makes its way back towards the sun. As the moon's orbit carries the illuminated side away from the Earth, the next phase it comes to is the waning gibbous. The moon now appears to be getting darker each day. Next is the last quarter. This means the moon has completed 3/4 of its orbit. This appears to be another half moon, so to speak, but on the left side this time. Next is the waning crescent. At this point, a small curved sliver is now visible on the left. Then finally, the moon returns to its invisible new moon phase, and the process starts all over again.
Enjoying a summer day at home can be a welcome treat, but sometimes a little road trip is just what you need.
Let's take a drive to the Carolina Artists Gallery in Carteret County. Located in downtown Morehead City on the historic waterfront district, it's a beautiful gallery with different unique styles. Their artists range from classically trained traditionalists to contemporary self-taught painters working in oil, acrylic, pastel, photography, and mixed media. Jewelry artists, potters, sculpture, metalworkers, and woodcrafters present three-dimensional work as well. You'll find the whimsical along with the serious and the thought-provoking as well as amusing. Established in 1999 from a casual group of local women who wanted to get together regularly and paint, to now the pretty art space where dozens of local artists can shine. Emerging artists are featured regularly through special gallery showings, receptions, and other events. They also offer classes that range from beginning to intermediate watercolors to unique art forms like scratch work. Everyone can discover a new talent from professional locals. I'm Storm Team 9 meteorologist Olivia Monteleone. See you next week for our next adventure.
We enjoy the sunshine-filled days this time of year, but sometimes the weather turns ugly and even downright dangerous. A good forecast is more than just convenient, it's necessary.
Buoys host a wide array of sensors to monitor atmospheric conditions, waves, current dynamics, and marine water quality. Atmospheric and weather sensors, topside, mounted on the buoy's mast to measure weather conditions and exchange data with the atmosphere. Anemometers measure wind speed and direction. Barometric pressure sensors track changes in air pressure to predict severe weather like hurricanes. Air temperature and humidity sensors measure ambient temperature and relative humidity. Solar radiation sensors measure the amount of sunlight reaching the surface to calculate heat flux and photosynthesis rates. Rain gauges measure precipitation. Physical oceanography sensors, subsurface, mounted on the buoy hull or suspended along an intelligent mooring cable to track water movement and properties. Inertial navigation systems measure the buoy's pitch, roll, and heave to calculate wave height, wave period, and direction. Acoustic Doppler current profilers bounce sound waves off particles in the water to calculate speed and direction of ocean currents at various depths. CTD sensors measure conductivity, salinity, water density, temperature and depth, and the three fundamental physical properties of seawater. Water quality sensors, subsurface, used mostly in coastal zones, estuaries, and inland lakes to monitor aquatic health. Dissolved oxygen is vital for aquatic life and hypoxia studies. pH and oxidation reduction potential are sensors that evaluate water acidity and chemical reactivity. Turbidity and chlorophyll are optical sensors that measure water clarity and the presence of algae. And greenhouse gas sensors study the ocean-atmosphere carbon exchange.
Time for a little trivia. 8 questions, 2 minutes. Good luck. I've always enjoyed trivia and games in general, especially board games. There's something about that small cardboard box containing colorful pieces, interesting themes, and a perfectly concise set of rules that really appeals to my brain. And being a meteorologist, there are many games out there that pique my interest. In fact, here's one you may enjoy. Planet is a game published by Blue Orange Games. It can accommodate 2 to 4 players and takes about a half hour to play. In Planet, players build their own planet by placing terrain tiles and populating wildlife. The setup layout is simple and nicely explained in the included instruction guide. Each row represents a round in the game. Before starting the sample 2-player game, each player takes a planet core and randomly selected terrain card which they keep hidden from other players. To begin round 1, the youngest player takes the turn order marker and selects a single terrain tile of their choice from the stack, placing it anywhere on the cube they wish. The orientation doesn't matter. Player 2 then takes a tile of their choice for their planet. Once both players have a tile in place, the turn order marker then passes to the next player and the first round ends. Round 2 plays exactly the same way, with the player who holds the turn order marker making the first selection. Once players reach round 3, they continue to select tiles just as before, but they can also compete to earn wildlife cards. For example, this card will be awarded to the player with the largest territory of ice that doesn't border sand. So each player scans their globe to see if they meet that criteria. In our sample game, both players have ice territories that don't border sand, but player 2's ice territory contains more triangles than player 1's, so player 2 claims the wildlife card. Different cards contain different conditions, and each is clearly explained in the manual. Once the players go through all 12 rounds, the game ends. To see who wins, each player first adds up all of their triangles on their planet matching those on the terrain card, earning the points listed on each card. Players then earn 1 point for all wildlife cards also matching that terrain card. Finally, players receive 2 points for each of the other cards. The player with the most total points wins. I found that both kids and adults enjoy board gaming, but the kids seem to catch on faster. That's not just true with leisure activities, it's true of learning too. And there's no better place to learn each week than our Weather Kids sessions. Often on Weather Kids, we welcome students here at our Storm Team 9 Weather Center. But some weeks we head out on the road to visit students in the classroom or at area STEM events or school fairs. It's a chance for us to teach in person in the field, so to speak, and it gives us a fresh perspective on our daily job as forecasters. Many of the students I meet want to become meteorologists when they grow up, and they're usually curious to know what got me interested in meteorology in the first place. Well, when I was a kid, the second grade to be exact, I experienced firsthand the deadly Carolina tornado outbreak of March 28, 1984. In just 9 hours, a total of 22 tornadoes developed in the Carolinas, killing 57 residents. My hometown of Mount Olive was one of the hardest hit locations in that outbreak, and I saw damage on a scale I could scarcely imagine. Trucks left sticking out of the ground, entire neighborhoods demolished. Many of the tornadoes that spawned that night had winds of F4 intensity on the original Fujita scale, which corresponded to wind speeds over 207 miles an hour. That's a level of strength we typically associated with the states in Tornado Alley, like Texas or Oklahoma. For years after the 1984 outbreak, I had a deep fear of severe weather. That later developed into an interest in learning and eventually a career. That's why I enjoy teaching kids so much about what it means to be a meteorologist. Now, if your child would like to become a Storm Team 9 Weather Kid, send me an email to jjackson@WNCT.com and I'll explain the whole process. For the Storm Team 9 Weather Kids, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jerry Jackson. Class dismissed. It's always nice to meet our young guests in the studio, but sometimes we introduce new faces behind the anchor desk. and every now and then familiar faces come to new places.
In this edition of Staff Spotlight, we're talking with Jay Hardy, who is an anchor and reporter here at WNCT. When asked what his most memorable weather experience was, Jay certainly has some stories to tell. From record snow to tornadoes, Jay has seen quite a bit, and it all started when he was just 4 years old.
I think the first one, I was about 4 years old, 1980, and I remember it was a big snowstorm we had, and my dad had gone out to lift the garage doors. I guess he'd put them down so the snow wouldn't get in. We knew it was coming. And so, yeah, he went out there, and I remember as a kid looking out the garage door, and I could see snow up to the windows of the garage door. You know, I'm this little kid back then, and that was enormous, an enormous amount of snow.
This March snowstorm produced widespread totals of 12 to 18 inches. But not only was this storm remarkable by the amounts, but also the winds. Sustained winds of 20 to 40 miles per hour were reported across the area, with some gusts as high as 60 miles per hour. These winds caused snow drifts up to 8 feet in some locations. To a child, the snow may seem fun, but just 4 years later, Jay would experience another weather event that would not fascinate, but instead frighten.
1984, tornado came through, and I feel like it was an outbreak at that time that it came through like the Snow Hill area, and we lived right off of Highway 258, so we could hear sirens like from North Lenore Fire Department. We could hear it all night.
This was indeed a tornado outbreak. On March 28, 1984, 24 confirmed tornadoes impacted our state.
1984, I'm 8 years old. Well, still, you know, scaredy cat. You know, you have tornadoes and storms and stuff. And I remember my sister and I, we left our rooms and we slept on the floor next to my mom and dad's bed.
3 tornadoes of note include the ones that affected Pitt, Duplin, Greene, and Jay's home county, Lenore.
My dad ended up helping a church friend of ours clean up his house, which basically was leveled. I saw things in trees, like mattresses and stuff like that, that you see in videos like we see now coming out of Oklahoma.
Experiencing these types of events at a young age can teach one to appreciate the weather, but also to never underestimate the hazards it can bring. As you walk across your backyard at night, you may see one of these creatures. These are called Fowler's toads. Although toads and frogs may look alike, they have their fair share of differences. For example, frogs have smooth skin, whereas toads usually have dry, bumpy skin. Frogs also have long legs with full webbing on their hind feet. However, toads have shorter legs with little to no webbing on their hind feet. Toads and frogs are similar considering the fact that both have the same life stages. Fowler's toads start off as eggs in the water, then hatch into tadpoles in just a few days. After growing up to about 1.5 inches, the tadpole will grow legs and transition into an adult. An adult usually grows up to about 2.5 inches. Given their brownish-gray color, Fowler's toads are often mistaken for American toads. A key difference between the two is that Fowler's toads have a pale stripe running down the middle of their back. They also have smaller cranial crests and smaller warts as compared to the American toad. Fowler's toads also occur across the entire state of North Carolina, especially around farm ponds or wetlands where reproductive habitats are easily accessed. Without sharp teeth or claws, their self-defense capabilities are limited. However, as with many toads, they secrete a particular substance which is highly distasteful and even toxic to some predators. So join me next time as we hop into the water and take a look at a popular saltwater fish. In the studio, I'm meteorologist Christopher Tyndall, Storm Team 9.
And that does it for another edition of Weather or Not. I hope you enjoyed playing a little trivia this week, hitting the road with our weather team, forecasting, and taking a few minutes to enjoy some simple life pleasures. And remember, you can join us each week for a fresh episode. Our ongoing mission is to keep you informed, enlightened, and a little happier too. I'm Storm Team 9 Chief Meteorologist Jerry Jackson, and this is Weather or Not.